How's it going, and welcome back to another video. So in the last two videos that I've done, I have reviewed and answered questions about the Sigma 16mm f1.4. In the comments, there was one specific commenter that was quite adamant in wanting to know how the full frame performance was. Several people asked about the full frame performance or if it was compatible. It is compatible, it works, same mount, there will be vignetting. But that answer wasn't quite good enough for one fellow. So I have now got a full frame camera. So I went out and got the A7R2. I know it's not the latest and greatest, but I got it for the same price as what I got the A6500 for a year ago. So it was a pretty good price. And this here is the 16mm f1.4 on it. So let's go ahead and jump in and see how it performs. To kick things off, I did a quick field of view comparison here. This is in APS-C crop mode here, and this is in full frame mode here. So let's just jump back and forth between those two, let you guys see what kind of difference we got there. So it's a pretty significant difference. It goes from kind of wide to really stinking wide in a hurry. So this lens is going to have a completely different use case when you're using it on a full frame camera versus the APS-C crop. One thing I did notice about using it on this camera, which was kind of different, I didn't notice this in the initial review or in the follow-up review, but on the A7R2, there's a good bit of chromatic aberration here that was not apparent on the other camera. So that's kind of odd, and I wouldn't have expected that to show up just by putting it on a different camera. So let's move on here. So I took a picture at pretty much every single f-stop to compare the image circle and the vignetting, as well as the image quality from aperture to aperture. And what I found was that the vignetting gets worse from f1.4 to f1.6, and then starts getting better and better from 2.8, 3.5, and to 5.6. But after f5.6, it starts getting smaller and smaller from f8, f11, and f16. So this shows that f5.6 is going to be your best option as far as getting as much of the subject as possible within the frame to get the biggest possible crop. Now it just so happens that f5.6 is some of the best image quality all the way to the edges as well. If you look at f5.6 compared to f16, you'll see that it pretty much ties or beats it out. The f16 looks a little more contrasty, it's not quite as bright. And then if we move this down to f11, it's pretty much the same story. The f5.6 is as good as it gets, and there's really no serious competition at other apertures. As you can see, there's significantly more in the frame. You've got these bushes on this side of the tree there, and this pretty much stops right at the base of the tree. So f5.6 is really the sweet spot for overall coverage as well as image quality. Something else interesting when this lens is put on a full frame sensor is that the distortion gets kind of weird. Now this image is actually out of focus, so just ignore that. But what I want you to look at here, if you look at the deck boards here, you can see that the crack here from the board starts out of the frame, comes up into the frame, comes almost back down to touch the edge of the frame, comes back up into the frame, and then goes out of the frame again. So there's kind of this wave pattern going on here. And if you look closely at the top as well, you can see that this soffit here does the exact same thing. It starts high, goes low, comes high again in the middle. So it's got a weird pin cushion and fisheye effect here. The sides of the frame pretty much only have a pin cushion effect, but the top and bottom, definitely some weird stuff going on there. So watch the corners on this video clip. You can see the branches sharpen up significantly, and then the vignetting starts getting worse and worse. It's pretty interesting to watch and pretty much exactly demonstrates what this lens does as you stop down through the apertures. I also tried out the autofocus with this lens. This is the full frame mode here, and the focusing is a little slower than I thought it was going to be, but I think that has to do with the camera. I don't think the A7R2 is nearly as quick as the A6500, so that may be the problem with this. It seemed to go a little bit faster when I was shooting in APS-C mode, but there was one point where it really took a long time to grab focus. As you can see here, it just kind of sits there. So then we have the eye tracking. The eye tracking seems to work really well in crop sensor mode. It doesn't really miss a beat, it always stays on point, and it jumps to the face immediately if it loses the eye. So I was very impressed with crop sensor mode, but in full frame mode, it seemed to be a little bit more hit or miss, and I'm not exactly sure why, but you can see here that I'm actually trying to get it to focus, and it's really having a hard time grabbing her face, and there it goes, and it's very in and out, very hard to try and lock onto her eye. But it does work, it works okay. I can't say I can really recommend this lens for a full frame camera. So as you can see, the field of view with the 16mm on a full frame lens is ultra wide angle and isn't an everyday shooter. You wouldn't want to use this for any kind of portraiture like you may want to with an APS-C body, but the image quality is still really good. For some reason the chromatic aberrations were worse on the full frame body. I don't know why, but I didn't run into any of that on the A6500, so that's kind of weird. But the results were pretty much exactly as I expected and exactly how my previous videos stated. It works great, but there's vignetting. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hit that like button, go ahead and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.